Hello, welcome. It's 2018. As we say in Scotland, lang may your lum reek, which means long may your chimney smoke. I'm Adam Gordon. I am CEO and co-founder of Candidate ID. Welcome to our first talent talk of the year. We do these about every 2 weeks. We get somebody on to grill them about a particular subject. And this first inaugural session of 2018, I'm delighted to welcome our good friend Hung Lee. Hung, could you just quickly, you probably don't really need an introduction, but give us a quick introduction. Who are you? What do you do?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Adam. Delighted to be here. So my name is Hung Lee. What do I do? Ask myself that question every morning, Adam. Truth is, too many things. So I'm running a recruiting platform called Workshape.io, a matching platform for software engineers. And on the side, I also curate a newsletter called Recruiting Brain Food.
Brilliant. Now, Hung is like he's like the DJ. He's like the Calvin Harris of recruitment content. He brings all the best stuff together. Tell us a bit about Recruiting Brain Food. Where did you come up with the idea from? How many people is it going to? It's the best thing. It's the best content I get every single week.
Thank you very much, Aaron. That's amazing to say. Calvin Harris of recruiting. I think I can retire. That's basically hit my life goals. But you know what? I think DJ is the right kind of analogy because I don't see myself as a content creator. And I realized that, the last time I actually wrote a blog was probably about 6 years or so ago. The last time I did any video content was a similar period of time. It's just hard to do. So I've got massive credit to the original content creators. And what I started to do is simply save content that was really good. Literally put it in a Dropbox file, put it in a little folder that I had. And I realized, you know what, there's a lot of noise out there on the internet, a lot of people just trying to get clicks and all that kind of stuff. 99% of it rubbish, 1% is amazing. But because there's so much noise out there, it's so difficult for a busy recruiter to actually pick out what's good or bad. And I was doing it for myself, basically. But then I realized, hang on, if I'm doing it and sharing this, I've got this folder anyway, why don't I just make it public and share it? And I created a newsletter, and before you know it, people seem to enjoy it, they like it, they're getting value from it, and it's all other people's stuff, So that's why I'm kind of always a little bit surprised about it, but yeah, I'm delighted to be able to contribute something to the community in this way.
Yeah, you're like Zane Lowe, you're like Annie Mac. You find all the best stuff.
Stop, mate. Stop. This is just too much. But yeah, a little bit of a DJ. That's it. A DJ of the content. And other people, and like those good DJs, what they always do is shine a light on new voices, new music, if you like. The up and coming stuff, which is something I do sort of like to do. A lot of the content out there isn't on the major channels, isn't sort of the stuff that you would get at Recruiting Daily or ERE. Great sort of channels per se, but everyone knows them already. So I'm looking for new voices, different people that are producing some really good stuff. So yeah.
I mean, some of it is not what you would describe as recruitment content either. In fact, it's not recruitment content. It's content that has a recruitment application, but it's not necessarily. So good example would be the very best introduction to blockchain that you've times. Tell us a bit more about that. It's come from an unusual source as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that recruiting can be you can have a very narrow focus onto it, which is entirely your view. Or you can kind of take a broader view, which is kind of what I like to do, which is the idea that ultimately what we're trying to do is to think about how humans organize work. Do you know what I mean? And this is actually a fundamental part of how societies operate. So as far as I'm concerned, the content that is relevant to the recruiting industry touches on all of that kind of anthropological stuff. Now, blockchain is a pet hobby of mine. I've got a massive amount of Bitcoins. No, I don't. The blockchain is.
You have been.
I do have some. Yeah, I do have some because I kind of speculated and bought a few when I was way back when, because I thought it was something at that point. But the real value of blockchain is not about the cryptocurrency. It's about trust. which is a fundamental part of how recruiting operates. Basically, recruiting as an industry operates because we don't trust each other. We literally don't. This is why a CV is there, because I don't trust who this person is. That's why you interview the person, because I don't trust the CV. That's why you technically test the person, because you don't trust the interview. That's why you reference check someone, because you don't even trust that. So at every single stage of the recruiting flow, it's all distrust. So everything we do, Adam, as vendors, everyone who's watching this live stream, we're all doing something to try and increase trust throughout this workflow. Now, what if I could tell you there was a technological concept where trust was immutable, where it was absolute, and where there's absolutely no way it could be fraudulently represented. Now, that is remarkable. That changes recruitment. So blockchain for me is one of the most significant developments to impact our world. And it may not work, may not be adopted, may not. All of these things may not be. But blockchain definitely features on Breakthrough, because I'd like the recruiting community to be aware of the potential that it has to how we operate as people.
So I know a little bit about it because my next door neighbor is an Ethereum developer. And,
perfect.
Doing what he's working on is absolutely incredible. It's mind blowing what he's working on. Applications for recruitment. You're absolutely correct. The whole thing about there you go. Billy's just said it's the best explanation of blockchain he's heard. Now there's a guy. I saw a guy yesterday on LinkedIn. I don't know if you know him, Antonio Giugna, who
the social media guy.
Says he's putting the recruitment industry on the blockchain. Was his
fantastic. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Fine. One thing I should mention is we've got a couple of other special guests we're going to have joining us, but we touched on blockchain a little bit there. Let's talk about the other one first of all. In fact, sorry, Graham Brown's got a question for you. Hung, what's your music picks from 2017? Since you're a DJ.
You know what? Someone asked me this, like, what was the albums I listened to and all the rest of it. And the truth is, I don't listen to albums anymore, so I couldn't answer the question. But what I do, and I found myself doing this because I spend too much time on the internet. But basically, I look for videos on YouTube of people doing live tunes. And there's this guy called Mike Massey who just does the most amazing covers that you've ever seen, and he's doing it out of a pizza joint, which I believe out of Utah. It's like bizarre. He's knocking out these incredible covers, which I think are the absolute amazing sound quality, everything. And in between he's doing that, there's some guy ordering a margarita in the background, and it's like, why is this guy? He should be on stage in front of like 10,000 people.
Sounds cool.
Check him out. He's amazing. So yeah, I'd do that. That's the answer to Graham.
All right, I'm just going to quickly because I want to answer that one as well. For me, best albums of last year: Chainsmokers, Solange, Linkin Park, Liam Gallagher. That's mine. Anyway, right, next, let's talk about artificial intelligence. What are you seeing? What are people talking about? What do we all need to know about? What is it here now? Is it really here now? Is it actually machine learning? What do you see?
I think the skeptics have basically misunderstood how AI can be applied to recruiting. I think a lot of the backlash you see, and you always get backlash when there's new technology and all the rest of it, which is perfectly understandable. But I think a lot of the people that criticize AI in recruiting is because maybe they anticipated that the promise of AI was to absolutely replace a human recruiter. Now that may be the destination at some point in time, but actually it's miles away, and it may not ever get there because human beings are always going to want to deal with other human beings. I would imagine. So where I see AI being effective is in smaller segments of the recruiting flow that is basically administrative. Those things that don't require human thought. Or a lot of human thought should get automated, and we should welcome it. Classic example:
asking FAQs, that type of stuff.
FAQ is probably the most obvious place where you put a recruiting chatbot. And this is all about interface. You speak to a chatbot developer, they're not talking about building a robot. They're talking about a conversational interface. And when you start thinking about it in those terms, then suddenly you lose a bit of the skepticism. Because it's not really, me trying to trick a candidate that it's a human being when it's a robot.
Yeah.
What I'm providing the candidate is, well, it's going to happen at some point, isn't it? That particular beast. But anyway, moving on to answer the question, we're talking about providing a way for a candidate to interrogate a website in his own time and more intelligently than trying to look through an FAQ. If you ever jumped into any FAQ, even the best design ones are a complete nightmare because it's a bunch of text no one wants to read. Wouldn't it be better if I could just jump onto a website and say, listen, are you going to support a visa? Because I need a visa to work in this country. Or how much does it cost? I just need I need the basics. Do you know what I mean? So no question, chatbots will be implemented. I think this year is going to be massive for it. I'll be very surprised if most major corporates that have heavy traffic websites are not thinking about putting in a chatbot in some way.
So tell me, do you think that do you think that AI will replace human jobs in 2018?
I think so, yeah, a lot of them.
Do you think AI, in recruitment?
My feeling on this is that the absolute number of recruiters will probably be constrained. Yep. Because I would imagine that if you think about chopping up what a recruiter does on a day, 30% of that time is going to be spent doing stuff that is unnecessary, scheduling interviews, chasing people for feedback, rejecting candidates, doing all of that type of stuff. Yes, we all do. It's part of the job. But you know what? It's not really high value stuff. The real value a recruiter performs is getting a deep insight into what the candidate's actually looking for. If you're an agency, capturing deep insight as to what the customer is looking for, building a recruiting strategy, building a recruiting plan, executing that plan. All of those things I would not say are administrative tasks, and recruiters are going to still do those things. But 30% of the work should be automated and got rid of. Now, what this means is recruiters would hopefully end up doing better work, higher quality work, that's going to be more enjoyable, more fulfilling. But it also does mean, if you take a macro view of it, that the absolute number of recruiters should actually go down because they save a lot of time. Yeah,
of course it is. And quite honestly, not every recruiter is going to be able to do the higher value work. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
There's going to be less job. Okay, so what about, let's go a little bit further into it though, because I was at HR, well, we were both at HR Tech World in Amsterdam. And I'm pretty sure you were there, weren't you?
I can't remember, but yes, I'm going to say yes.
I'm pretty sure you were. I'm pretty sure I saw you there. Anyway, we were in the startup competition, candidate ideas in the startup competition. Yeah. The company that won it was called Robot Vera.
Yes.
From Russia.
Yes.
Robot Vera finds all the, Teddy noticed you were there.
Oh,
yes.
Hi Teddy, how are you doing?
Yes. So
she looks like a pixel for some reason.
Of course. Sorry.
I've seen Teddy look a bit better than that. But anyway.
Sorry, yeah. I've seen her look better than that as well. Yeah, no. I think you and Scott enjoyed a couple of Lagavulins. That's right.
Holy shit.
So Robot Vera effectively finds all the people online, reaches out to all the people online, arranges a time for a meeting, phones them and says, "Hello, I am Robot Vera," and starts and just does an interview on the phone.
Yeah.
You think that's right? You think that's good? You think that's crazy? You think what?
You know what? I think a lot of people did initially were a bit hostile to the value proposition there. My position is I have sympathy with the view of the critic in this case. However, I think it's a good demonstration of what can be achieved, even though you can clearly see that it is not necessarily the most appropriate or the best solution to the recruiting challenge. So, I'm impressed by, they've basically gone for it and said, we can build a completely automated way to recruit somebody. So from a product builder's point of view, I'm kind of impressed by that. But as a product, would you implement it as it currently is? I think, quite a high risk thing to do, because, robocalls, who wants that? Really? Probably no one.
I don't know. I'm not sure. In like, you live in London. I'm not sure. I don't know. Would people want a Russian robot phoning them up? It would need a different accent.
You know what? I'm happy to give it a go. If you want to give me a bell, let's try it. I mean, no one calls me anyway, so it kind of give me something to do. So yeah, why not?
Graham's comments just caught my eye here. Isn't AI in recruitment in most organizations similar to teen sex? Everyone's talking about it, but you'll find not many people are actually doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Graham understands both of those topics very well. So yeah.
Good. Now, I just invited Steve Ward to come and join us for a few minutes because
fantastic.
I want to talk about social media. Steve, are you there? Have you got can I even hear you if you can't come on the screen? Oh, there he is. Right. Okay. Is he in his t-shirt again? Is he in his? Right. So I'm going to just there he is. Right. Great. So I put a quote on LinkedIn this morning from a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley called Chamath Palihapitiya, who was a guy from Palihapitiya. Yeah. He's a guy from, he was at Facebook, 2007 till 2011. He is the guy who is like lauded as, he took them from like 100 million to 1 billion people. He's one of the key architects of Facebook's growth. And he basically says that social media is eroding the fabric of our society. My question is, so before we talk about what's the future of social media, what's social media in 2018, are you missing out if you are not on social media?
Is that a question to me?
It's for you and Han.
Okay. You go, Steve.
Yeah, go on. I think you are. I think society suggests that we are now. I know some people who aren't on social media and seem to be quite all right about that. Let's be fair. Let's get a bit of perspective on it. But I think we live in a world now where news and information, knowledge and experiences are passing so fast. I think people do miss out if they're not on it. I think it's part of the fabric of who we are now and how we operate and exist. And actually that's sad. As much as it's been my bread and butter for the last 10, 11 years, I actually think it's really, really sad. And it is manipulated. And there's a lot of scary aspects about it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be on it. I don't think that means we shouldn't be on it. We just need to own it better, I think is my, it's something I've always said. You need to own your own social way better than we so often allow ourselves to do.
So great quote. So Tris Revels just said, doesn't he say that you're missing out if you're on social media because you're training your brain to get instant dopamine hits, which is not what real life is like? I mean, that is absolutely the case.
Absolutely true.
It's about the instant feedback loop and the instant dopamine hit, and it genuinely is dopamine. So you're changing your physiology,
and our natural need for reassurance. 20 years ago, we had to go a long way to find reassurance. It was tough to get reassurance. You needed the physical people around you. You needed where it would be. Now you get instant reassurance. And I think that's a massive part of it, in both professionally and personally, is that I think we crave that reassurance. We crave sympathy. We crave a pat on the back. We crave that kind of stuff. And I think that's the part of the dopamine effect. It's that effect that says, yeah, you get the instant gratification that comes from the fact you put a post on Facebook and inside 2 minutes, 5 people have commented and 15 people have liked it. We get a kick out of that kind of stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if that helps us along the way, then that's good. My fear has always been that it has the opposite effect, that we get so consumed in our own story of our own life and that we become addicted to that effect. And I guess, again, that's where the dopamine thing comes in. I think it's a fascinating thing. It's the sort of thing that Simon Sinek was talking about a couple of years ago, wasn't it, as well? The same sort of thing around the fact that we're just addicted, frankly. We are addicted. But should we treat it as addiction, or should we just treat it as life as is now and just get speed with it? I think that's the way we've got to look at it. It's not a negative thing. Let's look at how we use it productively.
that's my question is, do we do something to try and curb this? Because having spent a lot of the last 10 years myself effectively helping individuals and businesses run social media, do we try and harness it in some way, or do we just accept this is the new reality? Hung? As somebody who is particularly loose on social media, Hung?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of very pro social media, as a matter of fact. What Steve has said is absolutely correct, and what the gents who you quoted is also correct. I think where I'm looking at it is the overall kind of net value of social media is significantly outweighs the negatives.
Yeah.
It's really helped us spread more information. It's helped us learn a lot more.
Yeah.
It's helped us connect a lot more.
Yeah.
All of these things I personally think are very good. What do we need to do? I think we need to get better at it. You know, and I think this is about all of us understanding a little bit more about what information is, understanding the potential power we have if we distribute, share, comment, or whatever it might be. You know, we can't loosely do these things anymore. But this is down to your personal responsibility. And yeah, we need to develop sort of our ability to switch off. You know, a lot of us, I think, don't we sleep with our phones? I mean, that's one of the very common things. Most people reach for the phone before they do anything, right? So these things are there, but I don't think the right thing to do is to divest from social media, because that's kind of like divesting from a big part of the world. I've seen people do the nuclear button, right? To literally say, I'm off it, deleting everything, done. Yeah. And I'm saying, all right, credit to you, but you got to really think deep about what that decision means, because it means you're going to be literally cut off yourself from a lot of the information that might otherwise be valuable to you. And one of the ways in which social media has actually affected my life, sadly enough, but it's true, is that the people who are on social media more, I've actually developed stronger relationships with than some of the friends that are definitely off it. I mean, just looking back on it, I haven't called my mate for about a year because he's definitely off these things. I haven't spoken to him because he's. Yeah, I'm sorry, John, but
now's the time, Hung. Now's the time.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him after this thing. But I've realised just now in this conversation, I'm calling because he's off the bloody. He's off the landscape on all of these things. So I don't think I'm gonna do that.
I asked the question in my office just before coming into this, and I said, "Are you missing out if you're not on social media?" And Scott immediately said, "If you're in business, you're missing out." And Christine said, one of her friends basically doesn't know what's going on. She finds out about events last minute, get-togethers last minute. She sometimes doesn't. And one of my best pals, I hardly ever see him because he doesn't ever know about anything that's going on. Not that I really go out, to be honest, but okay.
It's like, I'll tell you what it is. Just the final thing is, I used to have a friend who didn't have a phone. And he was very hostile. He was one of the very early divestors of technology. He thought, look, you got my landline, let's create a plan and all. And he just annoyed the hell out of all the other mates because you're going to change on the fly, but you couldn't because Andy doesn't have a phone. So you're locked into this thing that was planned that was now no longer wants to do, but because he hasn't got a phone, he's there. And it's like, mate, just get a damn phone. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So who have we got? We've got Dave Humes come and joined us as well. Dave, I asked you to come and join because you specifically said there's people don't understand social media. What's your view?
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to Hung. You kind of only really, you've been on my radar a while, but I've never really got too involved. So it's kind of nice to say hi. How you doing?
I was about to say, very good to meet you, Dave.
Yeah. But I think Hung is probably the testament to my reasoning. You're sharing great content, and at no point are you doing self-promotion. At no point are you selling jobs. At no point are you really driving traffic to your platform. You're actually sharing content that's of value. And I think that's kind of the whole point. I think people have got involved in the social sphere thinking they need to be on there. And there's nothing worse than a Twitter account that's only been used 3 times. People are not using it and engaging in the platforms. They're actually it's more promotion about what they're doing as opposed to adding value. And I think, Adam, you've done huge amounts of adding value with the live videos that you've been doing, particularly when LinkedIn started giving you the video stream. And I think that's the point. People are now posting jobs and they misunderstand that actually it's about building authority, about building credibility. Hung, I don't know whether you would have this, let's call it reputation on LinkedIn, for example, if you hadn't built something that actually you're not promoting anything to do with you. it's an oxymoron, isn't it? You kind of got there. So that surely is the whole point on social. People spend too much time, particularly in the recruitment industry, posting jobs, sharing jobs, advertising, and totally misunderstand. Social doesn't work for me. I don't get it. Social isn't working. Well, social is an intrinsic part of life now. It's the new web. It's the way we communicate, and it definitely isn't to do with how we actually just promote ourselves. It's easy to do, and it's easy to get wrapped up into it. But yeah, I think people misunderstand the benefit.
So, Dave, I want to come on to a couple of aspects of what you see with the recruitment agency kind of industry happening in a minute. But just quickly to Steve about about just more generally social media. So, do you see any big sort of trends and things, new things that are happening, or anything that we can expect in 2018, or do you expect that all the developments for recruitment and technology are in other areas?
Yeah, I don't know whether social is an area that I think is developing at any great pace now. I think social itself, as in platforms, I see better use of Instagram. I see some people doing some really good stuff in that area, but that's a branding side of recruitment, particularly agencies. That's an area that agencies still struggle with a little bit. There's a lot of work to do for agencies in that area. They should do. It's brilliant for them to do things like this sort of stuff. And it's like I echo everything that Dave just said about the approach to what it should be. I don't necessarily see that it's the platforms themselves that are evolving very much, and it's more it's working out the ways in which we use them. And it's really strange, isn't it? And, we've been talking about this. I've been doing this thing for 10 years. And as I said on a similar one of these things about a month ago, I feel like I've come round full circle again in this last year to go back to the way of thinking from 10 years ago, that of the pure, almost like a degree of purity and clarity with social media again, that got cluttered. So I think the whole thing with social media has gone through a cycle of it being a new and exciting thing. Then it got overdone by thought leaders, trainers, people who wanted a stage, etc., to the point where people regarded social media and recruitment to be a pain in the backside. Don't want to hear about it anymore. It became a bit of a swear word in the industry and bored people. To all of a sudden, I think we've now reached a point of clarity now with it. That means that it's good to talk. It's because either technology associated with how we operate in it, or just best behavior. And I go back to the word maturity. I think we've reached a maturity now that kind of says everybody who starts to revisit it again now starts to look at what their expectations are lowered, which is a good starting point because everybody got a bit crazy about it 8-10 years ago. But now people are understanding, I think, a little bit better about what they're trying to achieve there and are more open to it. But it does help that we can have some ROI in it now, which we couldn't measure ROI very easily before. My association with you guys, Adam, Candidate ID is an example of that very thing, where all of a sudden we can do stuff on there that has a natural ROI. That was a problem 5-6 years ago. We couldn't track it, so it became a little bit of an issue. I'm seeing innovation and excitement in the area from the other company that I do, advise, Toxo Media, which again, all of a sudden have invigorated the whole social media space and how we present content online and how we understand how audiences care about it. So I just think all the things that we are doing now, I just feel we've come back in a good way, a good cycle. I think we're back to the excitement 10 years ago, with way more clarity, way more better technology, and way better methods of operation now. And so I see this as a very exciting year.
Steve, can I just ask you then? Can I just ask you then?
Yes, go.
The one word you didn't use then, which I was hoping you did, because then you'd have kind of gone with it, is I think what's happened is loads of people they haven't had a plan or a strategy. Now you talk about Huxon Media, for example. They clearly have a plan and a strategy of how they're going about this. Yeah. And I think this is part of the problem. No, people just think, oh, I need to post something, when they're no thought with what the end goal is, short term, medium, and the strategy of who they are and what they're trying to present. That's kind of where like I said, the platforms are very accessible now, and it's very easy to penetrate. It's very easy to feel you should be in it because other people are. But what is the plan and the strategy? I think that's where agencies are lost. They don't know what they're trying to communicate. They're not necessarily drilling that down to their consultants to actually deliver a consistent brand value, brand message. And actually, they end up being a bit sporadic with no cohesion. And I think maybe the strategic point is really what needs to happen this year. Well, or I would like to think so.
There's a massive business opportunity there, and I'm starting to see it, by the way, because the agencies, and I used to be an agent, everyone used to be an agent, I think. If you remember back in the day when you had a target over your head, you're going to do what you're going to do. And it's asking way too much for the individual recruiters to kind of do a corporate social media strategy. What I am seeing is that companies are starting to buy these services in. I think your man who you mentioned earlier, Antonio, I think he runs a business that targets recruitment agencies to help them do social media. Hoxo Media do the same. And I came across a fella online, actually just chatting to him on LinkedIn, and he's a headhunting firm that actually now does employer branding as part of his value prop for customers that he's dealing with. And he's actually recruiting non-recruiters, but actually marketers, content writers, videographers into his recruiting business to then kind of develop that as a service. So I think there's a big market available to attack the agencies, basically agencies for agencies. I think that's going to really be a thing. Because companies get it, they just don't have the skill set internally.
All the time, the time is jammed. They want the consultants have got to get results today. None of them at any point are saying we've got a 12-month target, but it's broken down into daily KPIs, which means that 12-month strategy, the two are out of sync.
Yeah,
Steve,
sorry,
I was going to say, Steve, tell us what you've seen in agencies where there's been resistance around the whole concept of content.
There's never been ROI in content. Two big things. One, nobody wants to write content because people don't do a recruitment job to write content. So their first thought is, I've sat inside recruitment agencies where either going into consult or even when I was an integral part of a larger agency, which Clark and I became part of, everybody liked the idea of content, but one, nobody wants to write it. Two, it's time issue they regard, and three, they don't see instant ROI. And because agencies are built to deliver on what's live and what's current, and the KPIs that Dave refers to are absolutely built around, and that's not going to change. The one thing you cannot change easily in agencies is change the whole mindset to say, actually, let's not worry about our short-term placement potential. Let's think about how strong we're going to be. Never going to do that. That's never going to happen. It's not in the. So what you've got to. So the challenge for content has always been, where's the ROI? Where are we going to get response from it, etc. So that has always been previously the challenge, the time versus reward for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're in a new age now, Adam.
We are in a new age. Absolutely, we can measure, we can track everything and demonstrate ROI on everything. Dave, are you still there? Because I've got a blank screen now with you.
Yeah, I'm still here. You
are still here. Okay, we can't see you, but I'm going to ask you a question. Tell us just a little bit about Seriously Connected, because the whole everything that you're doing says something. The fact that you're doing what you're doing really says something about the way that recruitment is going and has been going. So I think it'd be great. Just give us a minute. Just give us 60 seconds to describe it.
Oh, well, thanks for putting me on the spot. I believe that the recruitment industry is becoming massively fragmented with a nation of freelancers. We had 9,000 9,000 recruitment businesses started last year. 75% of 75% means we've just got thousands of freelancers. And I think it's an ineffective way of running a business and servicing clients and servicing candidates. There's only so much you can physically do. So I kind of was of the opinion, if we could bring all those people together in one dynamite platform and give them every service they would have as an employee working for themselves, have more opportunities, collaborate with a fantastic CRM, and give them a brand to be part of, very much in the Airbnb kind of mentality. Instead of putting your spare room in the post office window, why not put your spare room on Airbnb? And let's do the same for recruiters. So I totally feel, but what it does do is it allows us to drive a marketing campaign and these nurture sequences and attract more potential opportunities to clients and candidates, which gives recruiters more opportunities for revenue. The old saying is, who was the most famous guy ever in the recruitment world? He was the hairdresser. Why? Because he had the biggest network and he sat and spoke to more people one-on-one for half an hour, you know, once a month. He knew those guys. And it's about the size of your network and the speed at which you can deliver. And I think all these independent recruiters are actually becoming inefficient and doing a real disservice to clients, candidates, and the industry. So I think if we could make one powerful business, one marketing platform, let's say, where everybody came to be serviced by great recruiters, not juniors, you know, these great experienced recruiters who don't need to be employed anymore. And that's kind of what we're doing. We bring everything in place. And I'm a massive fan of the whole thing that Candidate ID do. We're trying to, you know, layer above us, you know, where at some point I'm sure we'll be having a conversation, because it makes lots of sense to start bringing those long-term nurture sequences into a business. And it's back to that 12-month plan, isn't it? Like we said, you know, you're looking at what we're going to do to generate revenue for the next 12 months. Let the recruiters concentrate day to day, and let's work on their bigger strategies and sort of harness that in one environment, which is more engaged, more productive, and ultimately generates more placements for everybody. So,
can I call you Uber for recruitment?
No, because we're not. We're much more Airbnb. We're not Uber. We'll never be Uber. We don't want to be. There's too much trouble going with Uber. Forget that. Yeah.
Steve, were you Steve, you're about to get kicked off, so say what you're going to say.
Yeah, no, all I was going to say is I think that I think what Dave has just mentioned there is right. You know, what I've just said earlier about the fact that there's a natural short-term mentality that's an agency, that's fine. It's good to have that. They need to have that medium tier, longer tier thing, and understand whose roles within an agency it is to deliver on each of those kind of areas. I think that the problem is with most recruitment agencies that I've seen is they throw all of it on the people who have to bill, and so they give social media to people who have got to bill, and naturally there's going to be resistance. They say go and write a content and put it out on LinkedIn and hope you get some response. Whereas it should be the leaders in recruitment agencies who should be leading the long-term strategy, writing the content, being the face of social, etc., because they're the ones who carry the brand. So yeah, that's my 2 pence into what Dave's saying. And Dave, your business is fantastic. By the way.
Cool. Okay. Cheers, Steve. That's you for now. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
See you in the comments. Okay. Let's talk a bit more about the future, like the way that the workplace is going. I know so many more people that are freelance than they ever were. Hung, this is what Dave's business is built on in recruitment. So, Hung, what do you see happening? What do you think? Do you think the big changes in 2018, or is that too soon?
I think Dave's model is fantastic, and the phrase of I think what the phrase I'm hearing more and more in 2018 is something called total talent management, TTM, and what this is all about. And the HRDs and people in big corporate businesses, they're all over this. This is the concept of being able to manage talent that has all kinds of different contractual relationships with the core business. So instead of, you know, the traditional default of, you know, everyone's on site, permanent, they're all, you know, our people, we manage that. That's a classic HR job. Actually, what they're going to do is manage those people, but also manage freelancing staff, also manage remote staff, also manage offshore staff, also manage agencies that aren't staff at all, but, you know, provide labor or services. So I think we are definitely moving towards a much more of a flexible type of model. My core concern is actually that people have often still perceive non-permanent full-time work to be somehow lesser than other forms of labor. And that's not always the case. I think sometimes it is. Because everyone's seen the temp work, terrible conditions, etc., etc. I get that, but these days a high-powered freelancer can actually out-earn a permanent employee and do less work in terms of hours, and have a much better lifestyle. So I think we as a culture have got to get around that. I'm a bit concerned that government is 10, 15 years behind, as they always are, and we've already seen them try to legislate quite aggressively against these new forms of working. IR35, for instance, is going to be certainly big news in the agency game. But that is obviously a massive issue for people that are working in this freelance contracting type of way. So I think we need to negotiate what the situation is when it comes down to where the legislation is, and hopefully, you know, we'll have more maturity from government to support different types of working that people actually want to do.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, welcome to Talent Talk, Maury Hannigan. So Maury's in New York. Maury runs a business called Sparkstart. Maury's an extremely experienced recruitment practitioner. And Maury's going to join us to talk a bit about video. So, Hung, first of all, what sort of role do you think video is what do you see is happening? Is video becoming more important? Who are the sort of players for video interviewing and stuff like that? What do you think before we bring Maury in?
Okay, so I'm now scared because Maury's going to contradict everything I want to say from a position of expertise. So me being an amateur,
be bland in that case.
Yeah, me being an amateur, I think async video are going to be adopted widely by most recruitment agencies out there. As I think almost a mandatory thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of those guys succeed. I think video, I've got two opinions on it that actually contradict each other. So let me just hammer myself here.
One of them's right.
Number one, this is how I do it, make sure I cover the bases. But number one, I think it's compelling. But number two, it also takes a lot of time to consume. So I think we can sometimes overestimate how, we put a lot of energy in video, but you know what, you got to get that guy watching it all the way through. And one of the things that's super annoying, everyone's annoyed, is video autoplay. Why are we doing that? Everyone hates it. It's an example of video not working well. But the reason why everyone's adopted it, all the news websites do this, is because people now think, oh, video is definitely better. But it's not definitely better. I think it's how you use it, when you use it, the context of the usage is so important. Anyway, I think I've covered myself well enough not to be destroyed by Maury here. So
okay, before we get but Maury's angle on this is not Maury's angle, and Maury's aspect to this is a bit different from what you've been talking about. Dave, really quickly, I know that there's a particular video product that you're great friends with and you highly recommend.
Yeah, 100%. Without name dropping, but your Odro, we think it's just they're absolutely fun. We have it embedded onto the platform. Their ability to gauge the timings, create short lists, present it in a beautiful way, and the seamless. I actually think I agree with you. It's back to strategy. We were talking with Steve before. Video content has to be a strategy like everything else. But I do think it's really interesting you talk about consumption, whether we listen to the video, podcast, whether we record it, how that sort of is communicated to the clients and candidates. But I think there's a huge benefit to the candidates, to clients, reduce the time to hire and eliminate some of the stage of the initial interview process, but it has to be done right.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much, Dave.
Yep.
You're going off the screen now.
Hey guys.
Good to talk to you. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Maury. So Maury and I met at Talent Tech Labs in Manhattan about 9 months ago, and I listened. She talked for about 5 minutes, and I listened to everything she said, and I went, "I love this. You're saying all the things that I know, but you're putting it better than me." Maury, tell us a bit about Sparkstart and how it works and why people are using it.
Okay, that's an easy one. Sparkstart is an enhanced job description. So we understand companies have their job descriptions for legal reasons and everything else, and the number of them, they're not going to change them, but nobody wants to read them. What people really are interested in is who they're going to work with, what the job's about, what's the environment like. So we have a platform that lets the hiring manager record a 20-second video. It's just a clip. It's just, hi, I'm Maury, I run this, I'm looking for somebody to do this, or if you're excited about this, I'd love to hear from you. It's just a personal face, and Hung, you're absolutely right. People aren't going to watch 2-minute videos. Going back to this whole strategy, and you guys get it, you need to look at what tool you're using at what point in the recruitment process. We're at the very front end. We're all about sparking interest in a job. And at that point, nobody wants to watch a 2-minute video. They don't care how well produced it is or even what it says. You've just got to get to the point of saying, do I want to invest more time finding out about this? Is this interesting enough that I'm willing to take the next step? And that's what we do. We're the very front end. A Spark puts together answers all the questions that somebody wants to know at the very beginning of the job process. To say, yep, this is the right job, right level. This looks like the right kind of thing I want to do. All right, now I'll engage with a recruiter. Now I'll spend the time to fill out an application, whatever the next step is. And that's where it's really powerful. And how you sort of reference, video takes a long time to watch. Yeah, the problem with it is it's linear. So you've got to keep the clips really short up front. Once somebody gets involved in it and they want to know more about it, then they might sit down and actually watch a 2-minute video. I mean, we all have our time slots. If I see a 9-minute video, I'm out. I don't have 9 minutes to watch a video. If it's 15 seconds, okay, I'll do it. For Adam, I'll go a whole minute because I get to see him walk around all the mentions.
Doesn't get a minute from me. I tell you, 20 seconds, he's done. That's it. He's out.
So you get.
That's why I get all my best bits in the first 20 seconds.
That's right. You get it in there and you get out. So it really is. You're going back to this idea of strategy. It's matching, where the candidate is in their process. What do they want to know up front? What's more information than they want to consume? What's more than they're willing to do it? But what we do is make it really easy for large organizations. And we're being used on 4 continents right now, thousands of jobs. Make it easy for a hiring manager to record a 20-second clip on his or her phone or webcam, whatever, upload it, company approves it, and you get it out there into social media. You've got to put jobs where people are looking. And Adam loves the moving, walking around and doing it.
No, I'm doing this for a particular reason. Maury, tell us about hiring managers, because everybody's scared that hiring managers are going to be terrible on camera and all that kind of thing.
It's actually, it's great when they are. I mean, we've got, clearly we're being used a lot for tech jobs because everybody's struggling to find enough people in tech. And they look at their tech people and go, oh God, we can't put George on camera. The problem is, if you're a developer, George is like the guy you went to school with. That's what your friends look like. Who cares? His hair's never been combed, his shirt's never been ironed. But that's true of the developer community. People recognize their tribe. And when you let people, go on camera and be authentic, God forbid we actually be honest about this. It's like, this is what your coworkers look like. This is what, how they talk. This is how they dress. And for the right person, that's magic. You put this corporate suit up there and they don't want to be part of it.
Can I introduce a term here, guys? I've came across it just recently, but I think it just describes Maury's point very well. It's truth marketing.
Yes.
The idea that, you got to just take off the polish and just get the person on camera, and you know what, it's going to be all right. Don't produce this thing. Just get him or her off the camera. That'll do.
It's what Maury describes as like finding your tribe.
Yeah.
So the guy's turned up and his maybe like t-shirt's got a stain on it, and he kind of says the same thing a couple of times and whatever. But actually, the candidates that will work for that person will be happy with that.
Yes, truth is incredibly powerful. And if you don't script your people, it's like, look, you go to a website and you see stock photos, right? There's not a person out there that can't, smoke out a stock photo in 2 seconds. The same thing with these corporate videos that are produced. When corporate communications come in with the script and all these glamour shots, and no one believes them. Actually, there's a great study by Career Builder. They went to they analyzed 5,000 corporate career sites and found out that only 1.5% of visitors ever watch the videos on the corporate career site. In part because they're too generic, they're too long, they're a whole lot of, they're not credible. But when you actually put a clip of a hiring manager in, you get almost 100%. Who doesn't want to meet their boss? That's our whole piece is when you reach out to a candidate, if you do it with meet your boss, it's like, I'm not really looking for a job, but who is this joker who thinks they're going to be my boss? Just out of curiosity. You guys aren't looking for a job right now, but if I did that, you'd want to know who thinks you're going to go work for them, and you get a chance to talk to people, and that's really what recruiting is about. Just starting the conversation.
Tell us about. What are the kind of? Well, there's going to be a lot of challenges with getting hiring managers and getting businesses to create a kind of video job description. But is it becoming much better adopted? Are people getting the concept faster? And what's the market telling you, Maury?
Well, the problem, people try to produce these video job descriptions and they produce them and they cost tons of money and they take time and they're static. And every job is a little bit different. And so it's just overwhelming that you produce something for every job. What's happened is the technology, and our platform's part of this, has made it really easy for someone to pick up their phone and record a 20-second clip at no cost, no production. All you're asking from the hiring manager is for 20 seconds, right? You're not going to pull him or her out of the office for a half day to do this whole big thing. It's like you come in the morning, you pick up your phone, you flip on your laptop, and just give me 4 or 5 sentences that's going to engage somebody. When you get to do it at that level, And it stays part of the job description for the 30 days your job description's up there, and it goes away. And then a new job comes up and you do the same thing in 20 seconds at no cost. That's what's changed. So the big switch is getting out of this mindset of we're producing, you know, this video job description and blah, blah, blah. Nah, nobody wants to watch it. Nobody's interested in doing it. Nobody's interested in paying for it. What you want to do is just talk to somebody. Let the hiring manager just say, hey, look, if you're a Python developer and you're really excited by this, you know, this is what we're doing. And we'd love to hear from you if that sounds good to you. Boom, you're done.
Maury, we've got a question here. So, well, I've got a point here. Chris Heron has said it's a lot easier for end employers to create videos for jobs. Agency recruiters are often working anonymously and have little to show unless they can sell as a retainer. So, you know, Maury, my question is, you know, do you work with any staffing agencies? Do you think that they genuinely do have it much harder to deliver this kind of thing?
It really depends on their relationship with the client.
Yeah.
The way our platform works is the hiring manager gets an email that says, please record your clip. And right in the email, there's a little, you know, button they click, their camera pops on, we give them some prompts on things to say, and it comes back to our platform. So you don't physically have to be where the hiring manager is. I mean, quite literally, we're being used on 4 continents. We've got people that aren't even on the same continent as their hiring manager. So that's really easy. Now, we hear agency recruiters all the time say, oh, I've got a great relationship with the hiring manager. And you find out they don't really. But I got to tell you, the agency people love it because when you reach out to a candidate with content they really want to see, they'll respond. I mean, their response rates are just, they're 8 times what you get attaching a text-only job description. Really? Nobody wants to read that on their phone. Nobody wants to see it, but they'll watch a video for 20 seconds.
Is that all your rewards in the background for authentic videos?
Yes, there's my camera. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them.
So, okay, what? Tell me, what else do you see in the recruitment market from a technology or innovation perspective that you think is interesting, Maury? Or trends? What do you see?
The piece that I see interesting of the folks who really get it, and it kind of ties back to this earlier conversation. The folks who really get it understand that there really is a candidate journey, that the information people want at the very front end is different. And even with social, you know, people go, oh, do a social content. Like, to whom? Why? At what point? Who you're reaching out to? There's no real purpose to it. And we're finding, again, the good ones, so really the leading edge people who are thinking about this and have a strategy. They're talking about, gee, what do we need to do to just get people to pick their heads up and pay attention to us? And who? Not all candidates. Are we talking tech people? Are we talking, you know, senior management? Are we talking entry level? Who are we reaching? Content for whom? When you think through that and you're purposeful about it, then you get really powerful results. Most of the folks are back in with the kinds of things that you guys are talking about. Oh, have the recruiter write an article and put it out there on social media. Like, huh? with what goal in mind? The good ones are, we know what we're doing, we know why we're doing it, we know what results we expect, and it's part of a bigger plan. And then the technology supports that. Rather than saying, oh, here's a cool tool, let's go run out with this tool. It's, nope, how are we taking a candidate through a journey so if they're right for our organization, they've got enough good information, they can make an intelligent decision to opt in or opt out. That's the other big thing is the not wanting to collect just thousands of applications, but getting down to just qualified applications and getting over the ego of, oh, you know, 6,000 people applied to my job. It's like, nah, that's bad marketing. That's bad recruiting.
I've got a question for you. How do you successfully distribute video job ads?
We do. Social media is the way. They get shared. They get shared by the hiring manager. They get shared by coworkers. On the SparkStart platform, every job has a unique URL. So you tweet that out, you put it on Facebook, you put it on LinkedIn.
Can you share a link now to the chat, Maury? I'd love for the crowd to see, to get access to it.
Tell you what, when Adam, oops, we got 6 minutes. Adam, let someone else talk and I'll go do that, yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. So Maury's going to go find some. Look at this. I promise you, this is one of the, what SparkStart is doing is one of the coolest things I saw in 2017. Anyway, right, we've brought somebody else in, Scott McRae, who is the ultimate spear fisherman. So, hopefully a little bit just about the candidate journey, because as technology has changed the way that consumers do things, they change the way that, well, I'm getting a lot of messages saying that nobody can hear me.
We can hear you. It's just bad. So the less you say, the better, I think, generally.
Scott, talk.
Oh, we can't hear Scott at all. Scott, we can't hear you, man. It might just be me and you, Maury. Let's have a chat.
That's okay. I'm about to put this this link.
I might have to just talk to myself.
Can you?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Hung. Yeah, no, Hung. What else, Hung? Have you seen that you think is important that we haven't talked about so far?
Technology trends. I want to talk about organizational network analytics. Super boring, really. And the tech kind of looks boring, but you get beyond that. It's actually a very interesting way to understand relationships within a business. So it's essentially it's a recognition that the organogram is obviously not a good representation of how information actually flows within a business. And it's about tracking, using things like voice over IP and email frequencies and stuff like that. Who talks to who? What happens when that conversation happens? And then you start identifying clusters of influence within an organization, and suddenly you realize who your A players are.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, Scott. Anyway, so okay, should I keep talking about that? I can keep going. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, we've also got. We've only got 3 minutes. We need to talk about GDPR as well. So Scott. So Ori, thank you. We love you and leave you for now. Scott's going to talk a bit about the new candidate journey and how you need to adapt. And then Billy, give us your 60 seconds, absolute best. This is what you need to know about GDPR.
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen this year is that there's going to be a sort of growing realization within talent acquisition that buyers buy and sellers don't sell. And that, sales and marketing, B2B sales and marketing went through that 5 to 10 years ago. They suddenly realized that sales guys weren't selling products or services. They were selling a value proposition. They were selling, a value prop to what the buyers wanted. And they really also realized that it was down to marketing to handle most of the buyers' journey, because buyers were going to self-educate direct. Billy, I think you something. So that I think that's going to be a growing realization around the. Billy, I think you need to be on mute.
I'm on mute.
No, you're not.
Am I not?
You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, hang on.
So, I think what we're going to realize is that talent acquisition teams are not selling jobs. They are selling a dream. They are selling an organization, and they're doing that against the context of where candidates are increasingly self-educated and self-directing. So they're going to spend 4, 5, 6 months educating on their own. They're not going to engage with organizations until they're ready to on their terms. So you've got that one big trend going on. You've got the other big trend, which is that it's getting harder and harder to find high quality talent. So the business is going to start going, how do we get the talent that we need in order to meet our needs? So the business is going to get involved in this. I think you're going to get more, kind of board stroke CEO level interaction and engagement with this. And you're also going to start to get the, so who is it that's responsible for lead generation? Okay, recruiters are great. Recruiters are great sales guys. They're not great at generating leads that take a long time, to develop and to nurture. They're great at converting people that want to talk right now. And they're the active people, and increasingly they're the lower quality people. So what about everybody else? Who's responsible for generating, high quality leads for the recruiters to convert? And that is a marketing role. So I think you'll see a lot more strategic marketers start to come in as they look to sell the organization, and they'll use tech to do the heavy lifting in all of that, much as the sales and marketing guys have done in B2B.
Eloquently put from the ultimate spear fisherman. Thank you, Scott. Billy, you can talk. So we can't. I tell you what, the elephant in the room. Apparently, the elephant in the room is that these guys talking about technology can't make the microphone work. Anyway, the elephant in the room has got to be, for us, inside of the world, it's got to be GDPR. Billy, what do people need to know?
The number one thing is don't get hung up on consent. Consent doesn't mean permission. Consent, if you ask candidates for consent, then you're doing it wrong. You need to really understand what the legal basis of processing candidate data is, and recruitment. The most obvious legal basis of processing candidate data is legitimate business interest. However, that doesn't take away your obligations under legislation to make sure that you're being transparent, that you're telling candidates what you're going to do with their data. So don't abuse the privilege of legitimate interest, but please don't send out emails to your candidate database asking for permission to email them or to contact them or to process their data. You're going to lose your database and you're going to cause significant issues there.
Okay, cheers, thank you. Bye, Billy. Hung. We've come to the end of our session. We did say, to be honest, earlier that we might well have a lot more to talk about than just 1 hour's worth. So we might reconvene again in a week's time or something like that. Anything that we really haven't spoken about that we need to cover?
I think there's loads, man. I mean, we're over time, so we can continue. And you know, I've actually got to go and put the stove out actually because I've got something on the cooker. So we may have to cut this on. But there's loads to talk about, man. I would say, and you know, we're talking about tech. Obviously, that's the focus. And I don't want to be. And I'm a big kind of person that's very much pro tech because you know, I'm not a skeptic. But at the same time, it's worthwhile repeating. That, you know, human beings, as long as we still have jobs, are still going to require human beings to get them their jobs. And, you know, what we should see is that I think technology should make the good recruiters better. Yeah. And it should actually remove some of the guys that we don't want in there. So I'm very hopeful and positive about where we're currently at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other thing I was going to say is, the one person who was I was gonna bring on screen, but I didn't because I don't think it actually turned up, was Bill Berman. And of course we need about another 4 hours or so. If
get him on next time. He's great.
If we're going to bring Bill on. So
he pinged me a message actually saying he was waiting for a link and I was waiting for your link. So it was literally it was probably literally an invite thing that kind of didn't happen.
Someone needs to teach him to use social media.
Someone needs to teach you how to use Crowdcast, I think.
Hung, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much to the 70 people or so who have turned up today. I hope it's been interesting. And yeah, have a great year. Cheers, everybody.
Take care.